room if you like.
Well, isn't that not?
Call in the room to make sure to sign in on the way in also. That helps us an awful lot in terms of keeping track of attendance and being able to advocate for funding from our municipalities so that we can keep people informed. So that's a great benefit to us. Ladies' restroom down this hall, men's restroom down that hall. And the way we're gonna get started tonight is we're gonna bypass our usual introductions because it would take too much time. And we're gonna have a brief moment of introductions when we break out into tables. We're gonna start with a 20 or 25-minute presentation about the neighborhood plan so far. And then we're gonna break out for 2 25-minute sessions. People at home, you're not going to be able to participate in the breakout sessions. You will instead be given the information to go to the online version of what we're doing here, where you can submit your input. Please know that everybody in the room, we're preferring if you can give input online because it simplifies our ability to get the information back to us to inform decision-making on the plan in the future. If you, however, are unwilling or unable to do that, you can absolutely submit written comments today, send an email at a later date, or if you want to write comments at home and call me, I will come bike over and pick up your comments and make sure they get submitted because it's important that we hear from you. But the less data entry we have to do to be able to get your information back, the better off we all are in terms of making a speedy turnaround. Okay, so with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started with the PowerPoint presentation. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. Next slide. All right, so the agenda tonight is to discuss where we've been with the plan, where we are right now and where we're going. As I mentioned before, only the people in the room are going to be doing a discussion and feedback, and the people at home are going to be directed to the website. So we're starting with where we've been. Next slide. So the project is designed in phases. The project is designed in phases, and we initiated the project in the fall of 2017. So this grew out of River Road and Santa Clara in their own neighborhoods doing extensive outreach for previous 12 years, trying to find out what neighborhood to about that instead of being for things to come to us and then having to say, oh, we like that, or oh, we don't like that. How can we not have that happen? It became clear to us that becoming the masters and mistresses of our own destinies was the best way to go. And the city and the county decided to collaborate with us, and we started this. Since then, we did an extensive reaching out phase for the first year. Then we moved into neighborhood visioning. The reaching out phase was specifically designed around asking people what did they value about their neighborhood, what were the hopes for the future, and how did they see the opportunities for making the future what they thought it ought to be. The neighborhood visioning process came about. We started with we divided the neighborhood into 5 topic areas. There's transportation, economic development, community, parks and natural resources, and land use. And each topic area has a vision statement based on all the feedback from neighbors about what they thought they wanted the neighborhood to grow and change like into the future. So that's what the vision statements are. And then we transitioned into neighborhood priorities. And that was more of, if you took all the visions, they're sweet and loving and apple pie and rose scented water, but how are we actually going to get there? And there definitely were places where people's vision for the future collide, right? Not everybody feels the same about everything. And so we decided to tell us, what about this do you like? What about this don't you like? How is there another way? Do you have an idea for how we can move on into the future? And that was the priorities phase. And from that, we moved into policy development. So Policy development was mainly done by what we call working group members. So there are these 5 topic areas, and we had multiple forums at North Eugene High School. And out of that came a group of approximately 75 residents who wanted to be very involved and help write the language and coming to meetings and doing that work. And so that became our policy development stage. So we have our visions and our goals, and under our goals, we have our policies. Then we moved into what we call the action planning phase. So that's how do we actually make those things happen? Because goals and policies are ideas and containers for what the future could hold, but how do we get from here to there? And that's implementation or action planning. And we've been spending a lot of time on that. And now we have moved into what we call the adoption phase. So we have a full draft plan. We're still looking tonight to ask you, how can it be improved? Is there something you see we've missed? And do you have an idea for how we can make it better as we move into the adoption phase of the plan? Next slide. So there are a lot of project stakeholders, and the way the project has been organized interest in planning for our future and collaborating with both the city and Lane County and our special districts. So we have 2 fire districts, 3 school districts, 2 water districts, 1 park district, all exclusive of the city and the county in our neighborhoods. And making sure that they are being represented, they're being asked what they need, how do they vision their future, and how would that dovetail with the way the neighborhood grows and changes over the next 30 years. We have the community organizations, that's River Road Community Organization and this community organization. We have those topic area working groups that we talked about. And we have the general public, which we've worked really hard to reach out to and make sure we're hearing from all the way through the plan. Next slide. So we did lots of different kinds of community engagement throughout this project. We had 6 large community forums at North Eugene High School. We've had those topic area working groups. We've done neighborhood canvassing where we just go door to door and let people know what's going on and let them know that they can get involved at whatever level they want to. We've had numerous surveys and questionnaires. We've done targeted outreach to North Eugene High School, El Camino, Kelly, Irving Elementary. We've done affordable housing projects in our neighborhoods. We've gone to native Spanish speakers and held bilingual outreach sessions. We've gone to the Confederated Tribes of the Select residents in our neighborhood. We've gone to minority-owned businesses. We've taken information to every single business up and down River Road corridor, person to person. We've also convened business roundtables where business owners and business managers could get together and discuss how the neighborhood business climate could be better for them. How can we help them grow and thrive in and amongst the neighborhood? We've done open houses connected to a corridor study. That was a 3-year-long funded project, which also had more forums and opportunities for input. And we've had small neighborhood group conversations all throughout the neighborhood through the process. Next slide.
And the next slide is mine.
Yeah, this is Terry from the City of Eugene Planning Department, and I'll sit down.
Thank you. Again, my name is Terry Harding. I'm a principal planner with the Community Planning and Design team. My team includes Leah Roush, who's back by the graphics posters, and we're here tonight to answer questions and help this group work through where we are right now. So I'm gonna say some stuff, and hopefully you'll be able to get your questions answered at the small tables later, because each topic area has a lot of background, and we've just come a long way in 5 years. It's kind of thrilling to be where we are now. That being said, we do have sort of the challenges that happened with the plan in the last 3 years, chiefly the pandemic, but not only the pandemic. We've had staff turnover, turnover in community representation, just a lot of people turnover. And then we've had a lot of new state mandates, state legislation that has affected what we can actually do with this plan. The middle housing law applies to all single-family zoned land, all R1 land. You have maps of that around the room equally, which affects the early vision for the neighborhood plan about having middle housing as a transition zone between the corridor and low density neighborhoods. Then there was more state legislation about climate friendly housing that is more compact, located close in, smaller housing options, and equitable outcomes like more housing affordability, reversing or addressing impacts to historically marginalized communities, and emissions reduction. Really big goals coming down from the state that we're now required to implement at the local level. Removing barriers to housing is a statewide priority like never before, and this affects things like parking. We'll talk about that more. Removing process barriers to housing, making sure that our development standards aren't too onerous. And in response to all of that, at the state level, this plan needed to make some adjustments. So the plan and its implementation tools have been updated in the last several years to comply with the new laws and adjust how the tools function. However, the visions, goals, and policies that Kate mentioned have remained largely intact after the 5 years of community work, but the aspects that need to shift include the zoning and code tools. So work on a draft special area zone that had come out of the corridor study was stopped. We took a look at what other tools would both comply with the law, but still get at some of those important values that were expressed during the neighborhood project. This phrase up here, more equitable approach to land use code amendments, means that the city is responding to the recent state legislation regarding housing by planning for all parts of the city equally. So instead of writing a special area zone with detailed requirements for one area and then changing the zoning of all of those properties to the new zone, we took an approach to change some basic standards and add them to our existing zone in 2 zoning districts. In the land use table, we'll get into this a little bit more detail. The code tools are responding to an evolving state landscape that is focusing on addressing the housing crisis and moving towards more equitable outcomes. There are other city-related efforts that are underway, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and we have some handouts on those projects as well. Next slide. So the adapting that I talked about has brought us to where we are now. Go ahead, next slide. And the documents that are in front of us and that we're looking to improve before they go to decision makers are the neighborhood plan, the action plan, and the code amendments. Each one of those, this is a picture of the cover. Each one is a bigger document, and there are summaries provided for each one. Go ahead to the next slide, because I'm going to talk about basically what's in each of those documents. So the neighborhood plan, as Kate already talked about, contains 5 topic areas that are around the room. And each topic area has a vision statement, goals, and policies, and they're all summarized on one sheet. So those are one-pagers or summaries of all the work that was distilled in the first 4 phases of the project. The neighborhood plan itself functions as an adopted, once it's acted upon by both the city council and the board of commissioners, it will be a legally binding land use plan. So that is a document that has to comply with Oregon's statewide planning goals and all of the rules regarding public hearings and legal requirements. And it's distinct from the other 2 pieces in that way. Next slide. Action plan is catalog of identified projects, the roadmap for implementing the neighborhood plan over time, and requires the ongoing coordination, advocacy, and resources that Kate talked about, and we'll talk about again in a moment, to get things done. That being said, next slide, there's one area of actions, land use and economic development actions that are proposed to be implemented now when we adopt the neighborhood plan at the same time. And those are the neighborhood code amendments. And I put the purpose of the neighborhood code amendments, which is also on the summary sheet at your tables, up here on the slide. Purpose is trifold. To number one, as I said, implement important land use policies and actions from the first two plans. Number two, to promote walkable neighborhoods by adding pedestrian-friendly building design standards that are on the board behind Leah. And number three, to support a shift to less auto-oriented land uses in alignment with citywide climate and transportation goals. So there are some uses that we're proposing to take out of the land use code, like auto-oriented means RV and boat sales. There's a list on your materials at the table of uses that we're proposing to not allow new ones to go in the River Road corridor in the commercial zone.
Could you repeat that again? What is it about RV and boat sales?
RV and boat sales. But it would not be allowed to be added. Bringing good question, and learn more about that one at the land use table with John.
And is there an industry that will replace that for this part of the local economy?
Good question. I'm going to defer it to the discussions so that we can finish that high level information. Let's go to the next question. This is an image of that is to be mailed, I think, today or tomorrow, detailing how neighbors can engage from this point going forward. So there's 4 ways. You can learn in a virtual info session, you can discuss at the community meeting at Virginia High School, you can use the meeting toolkit on your own, or you can share your thoughts online. All of those ways and links and information are available at our website at Engage Eugene, which is later in the presentation. Just to let you know that that postcard that looks very much like this is hopefully arriving in your mailbox by early next week.
And there's a flyer on the table you can take with you as you go.
Perfect.
Same thing.
Thank you. Next one. A little bit about the timeline. I think we've said this, but it bears repeating. Where we are right now at a neighborhood organization meeting is to try to inform, we're doing community feedback to inform CAC and community organization recommendations. So this is all to get the plan in the best shape possible before it's handed to the planning commissions and the decision makers elected officials. So this is your chance now to learn about the plan, inform your represented organizations, and improve the plan from now to the beginning of June, really. Then in the summer, we're going to have those bodies, both ARCO, SCCO, and the Community Advisory Committee, discuss their kind of final comments to the planning commissions. They will be forwarded on, and oh, sorry, there's an important thing I skipped over. There will be a point when these recommendations are made here in the summer where the actual the feedback will be acted upon if we can. So there's anticipated to be a variety of comments from people. Everything from change this word or you made a mistake, which is easy to fix, to big policy things that are beyond the scope of the plan. So our hope is to gather the whole breadth of feedback and then that'll all be communicated as best we can so that people can understand how their feedback was used. So number one, that it was heard and cataloged, and number two, how it was addressed or not able to be addressed. Later, there will be another chance for anyone in the community, including the community organizations or individuals, to participate in the planning commission's process. Both Lane County Planning Commission and Eugene Planning Commission will hold meetings, hearings, and then make a recommendation that's formal to their elected body. That process will take us into the winter of 2024. But the council and board of commissioners also hold meetings, hearings, and then action meetings. And then implementation of the plan is far into the future beyond winter of 2024. Next slide. Okay, I think I'm handing it back to Kate for where we're going.
Okay.
Is that right? Yes.
Okay, so like Terry was saying, you can go ahead and switch slides now. These are what we call the action plan highlights. So the 5 topic areas represented in the colored blocks and just the highlights from each of those topic areas. And this is to impress upon you that the vast majority of the neighborhood plan doesn't happen with a magic wand upon adoption. The vast majority of it happens with you and I and every neighbor around who's interested, taking up parts of the plan and carrying them forward. It's going to require a lot of community engagement, work, effort, sharing of resources and knowledge, and partnering with more than just the city and the county, with nonprofits and water districts and soil conservation districts to make all the different action items happen. It's also going to be incumbent upon us to advocate for the financial resources to get the things done that we want to get done. We are just 1/5 of the entire population of the metropolitan area, and we don't get all the resources. So the plan has in it a 5-year review to see what progress have we made, are we reaching any of our goals, and do we need to adjust anything? And we've got commitments from the city and the county to have annual meetings to collaborate so that they can bring to us what their upcoming priorities are or projects in their pipeline, and we can advocate for the parts of our plan that match up well with that to move forward, so that we're constantly working to collaborate and the action plan along. So next slide. So what I guess I'm saying is we desperately need you to stay involved. It's not just from here till the time that a plan is adopted. It's from here until the time that the vision we've all laid out is achieved. So in any way you want to, there's the 2 community organizations, there's all kinds of other voluntary opportunities. You can help advocate for priority projects, and you can attend an annual coordination meeting to make sure that things are moving in a direction that makes you feel comfortable.
That picture is in this room. That was,
And this is Terry again.
thanks, Kate.
Mhm.
So upcoming and current city projects, partnering with the neighborhood-led projects include these. We have transportation and parks projects mapped at the maps around the room, but some of them that are in the neighborhood include Santa Clara Community Park, active conversations about how to get the land next to Santa Clara Station in public or public-private partnership to provide park and potentially housing next to the transit station. The West Bank Path Project, the partial funding that's been secured for the Ruby Bridge over the Beltline. For the Willamette River Greenway Code Amendments Project. This is in process. It's already been through Planning Commission and headed to City Council next week. So there are opportunities to get involved at the council level, and Leah made a handout about the code amendments. Where is that handout, Leah? Climate friendly and ethical communities. There's some information over there about the current project that affects parking and whether the city can require parking to be built. So there's information about that. And then the last one here is citywide corridor planning and boundary analysis. It's a mouthful. It's basically my job to manage growth and adopt policy documents that show and demonstrate how we're going to have enough land for our projected growth needs for the next 20 years. And that work is starting up again, even though we just finished one cycle in 2017. Our next cycle of urban growth boundary analysis and possible expansion is due in 2026. So we're already starting to update those documents for that. And we'll be looking at what we can do on River Road and other corridors to incentivize the kind of development that we think is needed and adopt the right development regulations. These ones that are proposed for River Road corridor right now are just proposed for the River Road and Santa Clara neighborhoods. But it's possible in the citywide project that they're a great idea and they're working and they get applied to other places as well. So in that way, it can serve as a pilot.
What do you mean by incentivized?
I think now we have time for clarifying questions. And the last slide is going to be a description of the activity that we're going to do. So if you can go to the next slide. It's just an opportunity, and I put the link up here for Engage Eugene. Because people who are on Zoom, this is kind of your last opportunity for clarifying questions, and then you're directed online to do your exercise. Or if there are clarifying questions in the room,
I don't have a clarifying, I have a need to know question.
I need to know questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to know, so often these presentations leave out the dollars and who's funding. Because in today's register card, there is a piece that the United Ways of the Pacific Northwest is United for Alice, which is asset limited constrained employment, people that fall well below 46% of folks living in Lane County are not able to keep up with the bill. I count 17 projects on this doc paper projects. Where are the dollar bills, where those monies are coming from, and what is the timeline? Are they doing this as a complete project all at once, or is it divided up, or is it coalesced with the county? The dollars are so often omitted in these conversations, and I would dare say most of us run our households by how much money we have or don't have. And we know that the financial it's warning of a greater financial stress in the future, and if we're expecting federal dollars, the city is already at a $21 million red deficit. Where are these dollars going to come from, and what will the tax structure look upon the committees, and why isn't this put to a vote to the people? So often the city makes these decisions for us as though we're children. People need to have the ability to be at that deciding stage on how their budgets and what monies they have. So 46% is a considerable amount of people that are struggling, unable to make these bills currently. That's a huge number, and it's expected to grow.
Gotcha.
So for me, the 17 projects, the dollar bills, where those monies coming from.
Those projects are parks and transportation, so you would need to contact the Rob Interfeld
And
and
we'll do that, and will we have another meeting to make that known to the constituents, the people of Santa Clara and River Road and Whitaker and Transong, those that will be impacted. And I'm interested in knowing the impact of the county, because we know this in the east side of River Road is county. It's not Ward 7, or they're not.
It's Ward 5.
Excuse me, I'll correct that. They're different wards, not
Yeah.
Ward 7. But I'm interested in knowing how those that were not annexed to the city, how this project is going to be addressing their.
the neighborhood plan is enacted regardless of whether you're incorporated or unincorporated, because the future affects everybody, whether today you're incorporated or unincorporated. And so that is why the entire project was designed to include everybody's voice about what the vision for the future could be.
And often, all too often, the dollars are left out, and it's an important piece for most people.
I have a question too. What do you mean by incentivized? What is the city? How do you define that?
Yeah, so the question is, what are incentives? What does incentivizing mean? I was specifically referring to development incentives for projects that may not pencil out for corridor redevelopment in particular. So the city has some incentive programs like tax incentive programs, urban renewal, those kinds of things, and they have particular geographies. But as we're looking to the next UGB study, urban growth boundary study, we'll need to do that analysis again and see whether the number of housing units we need, the number of jobs we need are likely to happen on their own, or whether they would need some form of assistance.
So in other words, they don't really pencil out economically. So the
Right.
city or the taxpayers are going to subsidize to a certain extent.
That's the policy discussion, yes, yeah, and that's not something that would be decided by us or staff, but would be made by the decision makers. One other comment with regards to the dollars and the information that you might get from Rob or park staff. What I would say in hearing your comment is that information could be brought to the large meeting that we're having at North Eugene High School. And Rob will be there. There's a bigger staff team that will be there when we have that combined meeting at the end of the month. So,
Will Rob be there?
yeah, he will.
Okay, I'll let him know in advance.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Other clarifying questions? There's one more slide, but it's about discussion.
There's one back here.
Just a little bit more, I didn't hear it clearly either, I don't think, about what the plans were for this, property next to the Clara station.
Yeah, that is a little premature, but what I can tell you is that LTD doesn't need the rest of the property. They built their Santa Clara station and they own the whole former school site. And so they're interested in selling it. The city is interested in buying property for a park or possibly building housing. So there's early discussions about what that might look like, but nothing's been decided.
That would be city subsidized housing?
Possibly, or it could be market rate, or it could be a combination.
Why does the city bond?
Possibly, the city has done that, like with different buildings on the riverfront or next to the downtown Eugene bus station. There is a building that the city helped buy and then sell to a group that's going to build housing.
But so the developer, if you sell it to the developer, he still have, they have to fill whatever plans we got, right?
They just have to do whatever, yes, meets the requirements of the zoning.
Okay, so well, the zoning, but you're saying market rate. What happens if we don't need market rate? What happens if we, let's say, far cheaper housing?
Right.
How do we get them to build what's actually needed rather than what they want? And if we're gonna give them those incentives, or we're gonna subsidize them, shouldn't we be subsidizing them for what we actually need, not rather what they need?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's a policy decision that still has yet to be made.
Okay.
Now, wouldn't it make more logical sense, seeing that bus station was moved 12 blocks down the road to make part of that park and ride? So look at all the property that was abandoned down there where they had the original bus station. Okay, you've got these buses out here running up and down. Most of the time, you've only got maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 people riding a bus. If you had park and ride there where people could park their car and then ride the bus into town, would make a lot more logical sense to me than to come out here and tear up all these streets, take away property from people that's not even gonna be used by anybody. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
There
This
is-
whole plan is out in space.
There is a park and ride lot there now.
Yeah, but what, 12, 15 cars?
No, there's 55, there's a 55 lot.
Yeah, but most of the time you've got homeless people parked in there.
Well, I can't tell you who is in charge of. So at this point, keep in mind, I think actually that's a discussion for the transportation table probably instead of the whole room, and we need to go ahead and move into breaking into our groups. But I'd be happy to discuss with you specifically about the extra part of the rest of the lot there at the transit station.
I have a question.
Yep.
Someone mentioned several times the decision making. I've talked to several people about the transportation plan and asked that precise question, and never got any similar straight answer.
Right.
So can anyone actually say ultimately who makes the decision?
The city council and the county commissioners, based on the feedback they get from their planning commission. Pardon me?
Jointly.
I would say separately, probably.
They have to concur.
I don't know about that. Do they have to concur?
Largely, they adopt separate ordinances, but they need to be consistent. There are some pieces that are only under county jurisdiction, for example, so they would adopt things that have to do with the county's rural comprehensive plan. And the city alone would take action on its comprehensive plan. So there are some that are separate and some that are the same.
And I guess the follow-up question, is specifically when it comes to the quote West Bank path extension quote further water. The decision, the ultimate decision, once the ultimate decision is made, is there X amount of time before the project is actually implemented? I mean, it couldn't be immediately or is it 36? Well,
We gotta get the home plan.
they come back.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer, but we'll have to get staff that do know. Sure.
I think a lot of people are concerned about the timing. Who are affected directly our property. We'd like to have some plan.
But
Rather than have it just.
so maybe a clarifying thought on this. This meeting isn't about approving the plans, and as soon as we say, hey, this is a good thing, that these projects are gonna get implemented. They're still in all kinds of different phases. These are the wish list that we want to guide ourselves towards. And so, great questions. It's just, I don't think this is where we're gonna say, I don't like that project, because we're not there yet. We don't have the funding because we're not there yet. We still have to go out and find that stuff. This is the big wish list. How do we want to go forward? I think that's kind of the envision what we want, not that as soon as we say that this is a good thing, that all of these things will start happening, because they're not programmed yet. They're ideas. And so we'll still have to get conceptual everything. But right now, this is just the thought that we want to go down this road. Okay, it's a really wide road and we're going down it. How do we want to get there in 30 years?
These wish lists have gotten us into trouble. And 32 trillion, our nation is so.
I understand that. I don't, this is not the space to have a debate without
But it
that.
isn't, we
Hold
have,
on, we have a meeting that we're trying to do.
I get you, and
And
we
so-
also have a person from the planning department, and we need to ask her questions.
Yeah.
And you can ask questions, but this meeting is for a different purpose. And we're trying to get to this, not just ask the commissioner, planning commission, this type of stuff.
So
So
what meeting would we go to do this?
that would be a city meeting to talk about different things on that particular side, so. Okay,
I would say you could make an appointment with Terry to have a conversation at some point, but tonight, right now, we're gonna break out into two 25-minute sessions. You can pick any two topic areas, you can go to the same one twice, it's totally up to you. There's materials there, there's people there, and there's all the visions, goals, policies, and actions, so you can dig into the details as much as you want. This is to help inform you so that you can give us feedback about the plan. Yes, I like this. Yes, you heard me, and I see my comments reflected there. I still wish that this thing would be in there too, or I still wish that this thing wasn't there, but largely you have reflected back to me what I told you, or whatever it is you want to tell us about it. And we, like I said at the beginning, we would really love for you to go home and do this online and on the Engage Eugene website. If you don't want to do that, you can absolutely fill out paper feedback forms here at your table and hand them to me, and I'll be sure to collect them. Or you can have up until June 5th to go ahead and provide this feedback. If you want more opportunities, because you can only get to 2 of these topic areas tonight, River Road Community Organization is having a very similar meeting next Monday. And then on May 25th, we have the forum at North Eugene High School, where there will also be breakout sessions. Also not 5, because the night would go on forever, but there'll be an opportunity to engage there. And then up until June, feedback online or in person, and that would be great.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
To point out is, we're talking about a 20 or 30,000. But there are action items within that plan and policies and goals that relate specifically to something you may or may not want. For example, there's an action item there to build a bridge across Belton to go to the Virginia High School. If you think that's a dumb idea, then speak to that action item. But the challenge is going to be, if there's something in this plan you really like, tell us about it. If there's something you don't like, please tell us about it. And finally, if there's something that you sort of like and think could be better, tell us how it can be better.
Well, I can't tell if I like it or not until I know the cost.
We don't know the
Well,
cost
yeah.
of this
Yeah.
town. We don't know the cost.
Yeah. Most everything doesn't have a concrete price tag, because most everything is,
It does in my budget.
I get that, but they're not, yes, I'm doing this. It's, this is what we want to do. There's a difference.
For aspirational.
Yeah.
So that if projects, if funding comes up for the kinds of projects that we're looking to do, then we're ready. We've got a clearly defined idea of how we want it to go. And we can advocate for some of that funding for our neighborhood instead of watching it go to a better organized neighborhood in another part of town. That's the idea. Okay.
Not all the money always comes from here. Sometimes the state, sometimes federal.
Exactly.
So that's another thing.
Okay, so pick yourselves up and pick your topic area, whatever it is you like, and I will go ahead and start a timer. And there's somebody there to help direct conversation. Yep. And people at home, good night.
Where is our?
That's a picture of the engagement website that wants to be.